In Dungeons & Dragons, picking the right starting equipment can make your game be a smooth, flowing, fun adventure, or a disaster right from the start. So let's talk about that. Welcome back, fellow Game Masters. I'm Richard Quiner, and today we're talking about equipment in Dungeons & Dragons, and the two different ways you have to pick your starting gear, and why I use the one that I do. As I mentioned, there are two separate ways of picking your starting equipment provided by Dungeons & Dragons, and the first one is following what your background and character class give you. They have options. Basically, as you're reading through your character class, you come to a section that says equipment, and it has a listing of several options for you. And if it has an A and a B option, for example, if it says you can use a rapier or one martial weapon, you can pick A or B, and that's what you get. You get that item. It's pretty simple. So you go down your list, you pick A or B as you go down the list. When you get to the part of the listing that mentions packs, such as Dungeoneering Pack or Explorer's Pack, there's a section in the player handbook in the item listings that explains what's inside each pack, and you can look at that and make your decision and pick one of the packs that you want. Obviously, you don't get all of the packs, you just get one of the packs. A couple things you need to be aware of and know as you're making your choices is that each weapon has a different damage die associated with it. So a rapier will do slightly more damage than a dagger, a short sword will do slightly more damage than a dagger, a long sword will do slightly more damage than a short sword based on the die that is being rolled for that weapon. All of that is in the tables in the items listings in the book, or in the basic rules. There's a kind of a guide, a table of lists where it has your weapon and the damage die it uses and some other traits. So be sure to check out that table before you go reading and deciding your weapons so you can pick the right one for you as a player. Your armor selection also matters. You get to choose an armor for your class. If some classes give you an option, other classes don't necessarily give you an option. Either way is fine, but your armor determines your armor class, or AC, which is basically it's how hard you are to hit, or how hard it is for the enemies to hit you in this armor. It relies on that and your dexterity modifier, which we'll talk about in another video. So pick the item that works best for your class to give you the best AC that you can. And you see, that was a very simple method that I just explained. It was A or B, A or B, A or B, and then pick a pack, and then you're kitted out. And it's a good way to get gear tailored for your class without having to comb through every piece of equipment in the book and decide what you want. It's a very quick method, and that's the one I prefer when I make a character because it's fast and to make sure I get what I need right from the start. Another method, though, if you want to be a little more sure about what you get and you want to be more specific, is the buying of items. You can pick out and buy items for your character. If you look in the equipment section of the player handbook, you'll find a grid or a table that has a list of classes and the wealth that you can start with. So look at that table, figure out how much money you have, and then you can use that gold to buy items at the price listed in the book. It's a pretty basic, straightforward thing. When you're doing this, make sure though that you get a weapon, you get some armor, you get maybe a second backup weapon just in case, you get some food rations and some other miscellaneous gear that can help your travels go a little easier. Things like a bedroll, a roll of rope is also really handy. You know, simple things that will just help the game go a lot smoother. Using this method, you do get to have more ownership of the items. In one character that I created, I ended up with 2 crowbars using the previous method, and that was fine. It just worked out that way. I wouldn't have had to do that if I used the buying method, but I was okay with it. The downside of the buying method is it takes a little more effort. You have to understand the equipment a little more, and you just have to make sure and budget your money wisely in selecting your items. So you can't necessarily go around buying the best of everything. You might have to cut spending in some places so you can splurge in others. Equipment is pretty simple, so I hope that's helped. We'll see you next time.